Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to have a closer look at the drawing process of the dress and the hair. The skin and the face are now completely finished, and we start with the dress by wrapping the top part of the miniature in order to be able to touch the miniature and handle it without damaging the existing paint. Because the dress is going to be wet and transparent, I start to paint the folding on the skin without working on the whole surface. I make a blending on each folding, going from the beige to the white, or let's say more kind of beige white. And I do this before airbrushing, because when you look at a tissue on a wet party, the parts with some air below it doing a folding looks absolutely not transparent at all, while the part of the tissue which is going to stick to the skin looks very transparent, and we want to reproduce this effect on the miniature. Now the painting of the blendings on the foldings is finished, and we are starting with the airbrush. First, I am sealing the part of the skin which were visible over the dress with some masking putty. I start with airbrushing a very light beige on the lighter surfaces, and I am very careful because the most important point is not to exaggerate with the airbrush unless we are going to destroy all the work we made before. So better do several layers of very thin color than taking the risk of damaging a previous work. Once I airbrushed the light beige, I am going to use a very dark brown ink in order to make a counter airbrush on the darkest side. This is going to take away a part of the contrast which I put on the miniature during the blending process of the skin, and it is going to smoothen out as well a little bit the reddish part of the skin. So there will be at the end really a big difference between the dress and the rest of the skin. This is the reason why in the second video I told you that the lighter part of the lower part of the skin, which is under the dress, were a little higher in contrast than the rest of the skin, because I was anticipating this moment. Now the airbrush process is finished. I remove the masking putty and now I start to rework on the blending of the folding. The reason is that during the airbrush process I airbrushed over the blendings I did in the first part of the video, and this made them less vibrant, a little bit darker. So now I am going to add an additional contrast and additional light on these foldings in order really to have them bright and visible from afar when you look at the miniature. now the blending of the folding is finished and the dress itself is completely finished. As you can see at the end, there is not a lot of color on the dress, but still you can see a massive difference between the dress and the skin. The transparency effect is quite successfully done in my opinion, and now we are heading to the hair. I wasn't really sure about which color to apply on the hair. I made different attempts. I tried blonde hair, I tried reddish hair, but at the end I realized that the best looking solution was just a very natural looking brown hair, which is what you are going to see in the video now. It's a very simple blending without inks, without airbrush or fancy stuff, so very simple straight away blonde blending. But it wasn't so easy because the hair on this miniature is very long. It's falling on the back. It has a lot of winding. It goes to the front and to the back, even down to the booty. So there is a lot of spaces where light is going to reflect, and especially on the top head, which is where I begin. The surface is very big, and therefore you need to have several reflections of light in order for the hair to look natural and avoid big dark brown surfaces. We are still not using zenithal light. The light is coming from the back of the miniature from the left side when you look at her. So therefore the reflections needs to be much higher on the left side of the head than on the right side or even on the top. If you like my work, you can support my channel in hitting the subscription button and leave a like and a comment under this video. Thank you very much. this is now a big moment because after all the work on the skin, on the dress, on the face and on the hair, the miniature is now finished and I am taking away the last part of the masking tape I used to make the final part of the hair. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed and see you in the next video.